If you don't know what you want in life, then I'd suggest that you watch this video. Somebody recently asked me this question. Hey Arya, what is it that you want in life? And I sat there for a minute thinking about it. It's a pretty deep question. And my answer was, I don't know. Just like perhaps you might have struggled to answer this question. You don't know. But when you don't know what you want in life, how do you live a life that is geared towards you becoming your best self? What is that one anchor that you use to find some semblance of direction? And that's when I said, I don't know what I want to achieve. I don't know how I want to achieve it. But I know what I don't want to live like. I don't want to be unhealthy because health is literally number one priority in life for anybody, especially a sick man. I would not want to be broke because I feel like money runs a lot of things in this world, although I refuse to pedestalize it ever. I don't want to be lonely because I'm a human and humans are social creatures. I want to have people around me. I'd like to have people around me most times because even if those people aren't constantly there, people are rotating pieces as is. But the fact that there are other people around me, the fact that I am social would make me happy. I would not want to lead a purposeless life where I'm waking up questioning why I even woke up in the first place or wishing that I could just go back to bed. I want to wake up every morning feeling energized that I get to do what I love to do. And most importantly, I don't want to lead a life where I'm bored on a constant basis. I don't think people value boredom as being this all-encompassing factor in our lives, but it really is. Like, we're human and we refuse to feel bored, which is why we stimulate ourselves with content, with TV shows, with anything that boosts our dopamine. It's primarily because we do not want to be bored, because our brains weren't designed to be bored in a way. And being bored kind of seems pro-death for our body. I don't want to live a life where I'm bored. I don't want to live a life where I have no experiences, or a life where I don't have a story to tell. Do you see what I just did there? You see, most people think that in order to get somewhere in life, you need to have everything figured out. You need to have this sort of vision of what you want to look like, what you want to be like, what you want to live like. But here's the caveat to all of that. We're all changing on a daily basis. We don't know where we're going to be, right? So when someone asks me something like, where do you see yourself in 20 years? I just feel like it's a very futile question because fuck, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive in 20 years. Life isn't promised to me. Life isn't promised to me. So what am I gaining by sitting here and planning for something 20 years in the future? Putting that aside, my values, my likes, my dislikes are so malleable to change when I'm this young. I'm currently 20 years old. When I'm this young, my values and what I think is good for me is going to change damn near on a daily basis. Not because I'm fickle-minded, but because I'm adapting. I'm adapting to new experiences. I'm forming new opinions based on new understandings that I'm gathering right now. So it'll be kind of impossible for me to sit here and say, yeah, this is exactly what I want. And I kind of feel like society chastises you for not having everything figured out, especially when you're really young. But here's what I tell society and what I would tell you watching this. It's okay that you don't have everything figured out. It's fine. Living a life where you have everything figured out is probably a life that is going to be miserable because you aren't always going to achieve everything that you put your mind to. You know, sometimes when you're 15 years old, you might think that you'd want to live in a bigger city where, in like a modern city where there's skyscrapers, where there's people, where it's just hustle and bustle all day. But when you get older, perhaps you'd want to live in a quieter countryside where things are just more calm, where you value nature more. Does that mean that you get disappointed that you didn't live in that big city when you were that young? No, it's because your values and what you like and what you dislike change so much and are so malleable through most of your life because we're just adapting to what our life gives us. You don't need to know everything, but the one thing you do need to know is what kind of life you don't want to live. The kind of life you don't want to live is not necessarily your vision. The kind of life you don't want to live is your anti-vision. And your anti-vision will get you places farther than your actual vision would. For instance, I've written down my anti-vision in the most simplest format. I don't want to be unhealthy. Well, clearly, so now I'm going to do habits and behaviors that are going to reinforce better health for me. So that could be things like diet, that could be things like training, that could be things like fitness, whatever it may be, right? I don't want to be lonely, which is almost a primal fear for most people that they just refuse to acknowledge because everyone's too nonchalant and they're all so cool now. But nobody wants to be lonely. So what would I do about that? I'd go speak to people. I'd go socialize, right? I don't want to be broke, so I'm going to try and find ways to make more money. I'm going to try and find ways to perhaps create a business that will make me said money, that will fuel the kind of life that I'd like to live. I don't want to be purposeless because I don't want to wake up every morning dreading my own existence. I want to wake up feeling energized that I get to do what I love doing today. Finally, I don't want to be bored. By bored, I don't mean that I'm going to simulate myself every single day. By bored, I mean that I'm going to think back about my life and say, fuck, I lived an interesting life. That's what I want to say about myself. This anti-vision is kind of all I need to make sure I don't steer myself into a life that I dislike. You may not always live a life that you like, but don't ever fall into the trap of living a life that you dislike purely because you didn't have the time to reflect on what it is that you didn't like in the first place. So take that time today. If you don't have everything figured out, simply write down what kind of life you don't want to live and act according to that and see where that takes you. Go ahead, give that a shot. This is primarily why I keep preaching about knowing your anti-vision instead of having a vision of what you want to do in life. Let's not overcomplicate things, all right? Find out what it is that you don't want to do and live according to those rules. Good luck.